Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. Once again, it is time for a shop tour. It is Thursday, February 17th. We are in the middle of a big winter storm watch that's coming on, but inside the shop's pretty nice, so let's do a shop tour. As you can see on the main bench, there's not much going on because I'm getting ready to start cleaning a couple of F production Miata engines that need to get rolling out to their customers here in the next couple of weeks. But I am doing some measuring on some of these these are actually old JE pistons that we ran in Perry Simon's solo car that he sold to a guy by the name of Ward Marshall, that I am now building a new solo. I think is it D-prepared? Don't quote me, but I think it's D-prepared. Either way, 1800 Miata, high compression, lots of power. So this is kind of the beginning of where we're at. You'll see a little bit more of that here in a minute. Rolling around to the other bench, you can see that we have more Driveshaft fun. If this looks like it's out of the Cadillac, that's because it is. We've had yet another Driveshaft issue. Now, the main part of the shaft is fine, but our little CV joint that rides at the front, the boot failed and all of the grease was lost, and then over the duration of the weekend at Sebring, it completely cooked this CV joint very badly. So fortunately, the rest of the shaft looks okay. I'm going to be able to replace this. Did go through again and have a new shaft in the car. These joints have to be in a very specific location so that they're kind of in the middle of their travel at ride height. And I double checked that, and we are right down the middle of where we should be. So can't really explain why this failed, and the Driveshaft shop couldn't really explain why this failed. So we're going to try another one. We're going to replace this one so he has a spare, and we're going to go back to it. So what can I say about that? As you can see here, we have a Wilwood caliper. StopTech has been completely impossible to work with when it comes to being able to provide these caliper kits for the Miatas. I've been waiting now for about 5 months for 3 kits, and they've just now come back and said, oh, all of our latest castings are bad and we can't provide them to you. Really? Time to go to Wilwood's. So Wilwood is working on a kit for me. We're going to be getting these hopefully completed and done in the next 3 weeks. I should have another 3 kits, 2 of which are already sold and we've been waiting on, so I'm hoping that works out. You're going to see a little bit of Ward Marshall's core motor here as this shop tour goes on. Check out this cylinder head, guys. This is just a core engine that he provided, and just the amount of carbon buildup on this thing is impressive. So obviously this engine had either bad rings or bad valve stem seals and was burning oil, and it just got caked on these valves. Doesn't really matter because it's still a good core. The head is nice and flat. We're still going to be able to utilize it once it gets cleaned up, but this is kind of the way they come in. And then we turn them into something pretty, so that's part of it. Got the RX-7 into the shop and up on the lift. So this gal's, I'm not sure if he was her husband or ex-husband. I think it's her ex-husband now. Was apparently putting in a new flywheel and transmission. And if you know anything about rotaries, these big stock super heavy flywheels, they weigh a lot, but you can see that this ring is not all the way around. That's because this is the counterweight to the rotor, to the rear rotor in the engine. So in a racing application, we utilize a rear counterweight out of an automatic transmission. So you can see this has the counterweight here. You can bolt this onto the back of the motor, and then you can use a really nice lightweight aluminum flywheel. Only in the Rotaries. I do not use aluminum flywheels in the 4-cylinder engines because they do not absorb harmonic resonance. So you can actually get really nice lightweight steel flywheels for your 4-cylinder application, which is what I would recommend. But this car and this engine shook like crazy when I drove it in. And we didn't know if we had a bad transmission, a bad engine. Here's what's going on. In the back of these motors, there's a keyway which obviously clocks the flywheel so it's in the right configuration. So the counterweight is offsetting the weight of the rotor. The key was missing and the flywheel was turned about 90 degrees. So it shook like nothing I've ever felt in my life. Pretty confident that once I get the key in, we're going to be just fine. As most of you guys know, I quit building rotary engines last year. I used to have tons of these keys lying around. Now I don't have any, so I had to buy one. Go figure. But it'll be here. We'll get this back together. I think she'll be super happy with all of what's going on with that. Moving over here, you can see that this is kind of the rest of Ward's core motor. You can see how dirty and nasty the whole thing is. Your engine's going to look like this, guys, if you just flat don't change your engine oil often enough. The oil breaks down and literally turns into massive carbon deposits. And you can see the oil pan has it all inside of it there. The ports in the intake manifold are completely coated. Even the flywheel's pretty discolored from the nasty oil, but we'll get it all cleaned up. It's going to be okay. This is kind of the way they start, so we'll go from there. As you can see, the Cadillac is in full tilt prep mode. A nice list of things that need to happen. Did get off down at Sebring and destroyed the belly pan here, so I'm going to remove all of these Zeus fasteners, pound this back out, and make a new belly pan. This will be the second one I've made for this car, so maybe I'll make a template this time. Make it a little easier next time. So, but Steve's getting really good at driving this car, and he's really starting to utilize the brakes. You can see that the brake pads are pretty worn, and the rotors are pretty cracked. So he's getting a lot of heat in these brakes now, which is good. So we're going to do a complete brake job. We've got new rotors and hats, front and rear, brake pads, everything kind of ready to go for that. But these cars just make so much power and they go so fast. You really need to be very diligent about nut and bolt checking everything. So every nut and bolt on the car will get checked. All of the filters will get, this filter will get changed. There's one in the back for the dry sump before the tank that I've already actually cleaned. Get that all checked out and just get it all kind of re-prepped for Atlanta. So Steve's going to be going to a bunch of these big Super Tour races this year, and he's obviously trusting me to get this car prepped properly so he has some success throughout the year. Driveshaft obviously is one of them, so that's kind of what we're working on here. Moving around this direction, you can see that I've got a lot more room now for the body work for the car, and this is the cart for the GT1 car. And here are all of the spares that go with the Integra. The engine is going to be staying here because this one needs to be rebuilt. This will be the second motor. We've got all sorts of spares that go with the car, along with a bunch of sets of wheels. And I've been utilizing the dyno bay this week kind of as my completed car storage area. So you can see that the Acura is done, completed, dyno tested, everything is beautiful, perfect, ready for pickup this weekend. And of course Taz's car is also sitting here, completed, ready to be picked up. So I think Taz is probably going to have this car shipped to California. I haven't gotten confirmation on when that's going to happen yet, but that's kind of what's going on down here in the dyno bay this week. Did get Eric's shifter final fabricated and welded, which is back there. Still need to get after his electrical wiring project here, but you know, I've got to only have a million things going on, so I'm getting there. We'll get there. Rolling around to the BMW. What do I always say? Do something every week, right? Last week I was talking about the transmission vent, the fact that I wanted to install a proper bottle. So this actually has a filter up underneath here that you can't see on the top, and then the vent comes in the bottom. So if it ever pushes a little bit of oil up into this bottle, it'll never fill it up. But then when I come back in, it'll just drain back down into the transmission. So that actually worked out really good. You need to have a catch bottle on your engine and transmission. So here obviously is the one that goes to the big bottle for the engine, and now this one is for the transmission. So that's kind of where we're at here. All I really have left on the car now is to change the differential for Hallett, get the exhaust on, we'll get on the dyno, looking good. In the meantime, I brought my old 1977 Harley-Davidson Sportster down to the shop because the starter generator, which goes right in here, is not generating any power. So with these teeny tiny batteries, if you're not charging going down the road, you're only going to get about 50 miles before this motorcycle just dies on you. I'm kind of a big motorcycle guy. I've got a newer one that I ride normally, but this old one's kind of fun to drive now and then. It's kind of like riding on a buckboard, but it's kind of like going back in time. Kind of like driving an old MG, to be honest with you. But it is fun for getting around town and just kind of showing off. It's actually a kickstart, so you have to actually kick this old Harley. There's no electric start on this thing, so that takes a bit of a technique, but I really enjoy riding this bike and working on it. It's been kind of fun to have over the last, bought it from a buddy last year, and just kind of been working on fixing the little things that it needed. But as you can see on the bench, we're pretty much cleared off. I'll be working on my first weekend list, which will be Hallett. I've probably told you guys this before, but I always use these Ledger composition books. In every race I go to, I will have, here's Hallett right here. I will have tire pressures, any info that went on over the weekend, and I can just go back and look and be like, what tire pressures did I run last time I was at Hallett? So that way when you hit the track, the car's pretty much ready to go. So get that started, a little bit of a list here. But all in all, we're actually looking really good. So as you guys always know, there's always new things in the shop, always some changeover, and that will continue next week as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you having a great week. If you're going to get this snowstorm that's rolling in today, be careful out there, and I'll see you next week.